Today, let's delve into the extraordinary life of Geoffrey Hinton, the only person in human history to have won both the Turing Award and the Nobel Prize in Physics. On October 8, the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences announced that the 2024 Nobel Prize in Physics would be awarded to John J. Hopfield and Geoffrey E. Hinton, in recognition of their groundbreaking discoveries and inventions in using artificial neural networks for machine learning. Each year, Nobel laureates spark lively discussions, but this year, all eyes are on Geoffrey Hinton, whose remarkable journey has captivated the world. The story most frequently told about him is how he went from working as a carpenter to becoming a Nobel laureate and the Godfather of AI. Beyond the headlines, his path is a profound example of navigating doubt, searching for purpose, staying resolute, and ultimately achieving breakthroughs. Born on December 6, 1947, in Wimbledon, England, Geoffrey E. Hinton is a Fellow of the Royal Society of London, a Fellow of the Royal Society of Canada, and a Foreign Associate of the U.S. National Academy of Sciences. He is also an Emeritus Professor at the University of Toronto and a recipient of the Turing Award, the most prestigious honor in computer science. Revered as the Godfather of AI, Hinton remains the only scientist to have ever received both the Turing Award and the Nobel Prize in Physics. Hinton grew up in a household defined by its contrasting influences. His father was a stern man who valued clear thinking and had no tolerance for trivialities, while his mother, though gentle, had high expectations for her children. She famously told Hinton, "You'll either become a scholar or a failure." As a child, under his father's influence, he developed a deep fascination with cold-blooded animals, a passion that stayed with him throughout his life. During his secondary education at a private school, a classmate's insights into the workings of the human brain ignited Hinton's lifelong curiosity about the mechanisms of the mind. From that moment, he set himself a bold goal to unlock the mysteries of how the human brain functions. After high school, 18-year-old Hinton followed family tradition and entered the University of Cambridge. Determined to pursue a career in academia, he explored numerous fields, changing his major 5 times. He initially studied physics, chemistry, and mathematics before switching to architecture in his second year, and later to philosophy, physics, and biology. Eventually, he settled on experimental psychology and graduated with a bachelor's degree in 1970. During his undergraduate years, he even took a gap year to work various odd jobs. Despite his diverse academic background, none of the disciplines he studied could provide clarity on how the human brain processes and learns information. This left Hinton feeling lost and frustrated, to the point where he struggled to find a graduate program that aligned with his interests. After graduating from Cambridge, disillusioned and dissatisfied, Hinton decided to pursue carpentry. However, a year later, he encountered a highly skilled carpenter whose expertise made him realize he would never excel in the trade. More importantly, this experience failed to bring him any closer to understanding the brain's mechanisms. With newfound clarity, Hinton resolved to return to academia. In 1972, he began a PhD program at the University of Edinburgh, choosing the then-obscure field of neural networks. His decision was influenced by Christopher Longwet-Higgins, a professor who was conducting research in this area. Hinton believed neural networks could potentially replicate brain functions in machines, and he hoped to delve deeper into this line of inquiry. At the time, artificial intelligence was still in its infancy, dominated by the symbolic AI approach, which Hinton found overly rigid and mechanical. He argued that intuition, rather than pure logic, was key to intelligence, and that enabling machines to learn on their own was the ultimate goal. Obsessed with neural networks, Hinton sought to model the brain's learning processes through algorithms, a concept now known as machine learning. However, his ideas were widely dismissed as laughable. Even Christopher Longwet-Higgins, who had initially supported neural networks, eventually shifted his focus to symbolic AI, deeming connectionist neural networks unfeasible. Longwet-Higgins frequently urged Hinton to abandon his research, but Hinton remained steadfast in his convictions. Their debates dragged on for 5 years, but Hinton ultimately persevered, earning his PhD while continuing to work on the marginalized field of neural networks. Geoffrey Hinton spent 5 long years debating with his professor over the value of neural networks, ultimately standing firm and completing his PhD in the field, despite its lack of popularity at the time. The situation was further complicated by the influence of Marvin Minsky, a prominent AI researcher at MIT, whose 1969 book Perceptrons had cast significant doubt on the viability of neural networks. By 1972, the field was at its lowest point. However, Hinton's dedication to neural networks was not baseless. Back in the 1940s, Warren McCulloch and Walter Pitts had already introduced the concept, aiming to simulate the behavior of human brain neurons. Yet, due to hardware limitations and the complexity of the mathematics involved, their ideas were dismissed as unrealistic in the 1970s. For Hinton, however, these early theories served as a source of scientific inspiration. Additionally, his lifelong interest in cold-blooded animals provided him with real-world examples. He observed that snakes could exhibit seemingly intelligent behaviors, learning through experience to adapt and improve, which reinforced his belief in the potential of neural networks. After earning his doctorate, Hinton faced a tough job market. Neural networks were so undervalued that he struggled to even secure interviews. Eventually, he moved to the United States, where a small group of researchers were still exploring the field. He landed a teaching position at the University of California, San Diego, and continued his research. In 1982, John J. Hopfield, a professor at Caltech and later Hinton's co-recipient of the Nobel Prize in Physics, published a groundbreaking paper on neural networks, now known as the Hopfield network. This gave Hinton renewed hope. That same year, he joined Carnegie Mellon University as an assistant professor, later advancing to associate professor. In 1986, Hinton and his collaborators published 2 pivotal papers on backpropagation algorithms and Boltzmann machines. These works successfully addressed the training challenges of multilayer neural networks, proving that the concept was far from an unrealistic dream. Despite these breakthroughs, the so-called AI winter of the 1980s dampened enthusiasm for the field. Statistical machine learning was gaining prominence, and while Hinton's work began to revive interest in AI, his papers initially failed to garner widespread recognition in academia. Looking back, these contributions are now seen as the spark for a renaissance in neural network research. By 1987, Hinton sought a more supportive environment for his work and wanted to avoid any association with military-funded projects. He accepted an invitation to join the Canadian Institute for Advanced Research (CIFAR) and settled at the University of Toronto. Hinton had grown increasingly disillusioned with U.S. foreign policy under Reagan, particularly regarding interventions in Central America, and was uncomfortable with the heavy reliance on Department of Defense funding for AI research in the U.S. In Canada, he launched the Learning in Machines and Brains program. The 1990s brought new challenges. AI development hit another bottleneck, constrained by the limited processing power and data availability of the time. Hinton moved between institutions, including University College London and the University of Toronto, seeking funding to sustain his work. This period marked one of the darkest chapters in his life. Professionally, his research struggled to progress, and he faced rejection from the academic mainstream. Personally, he endured profound hardships. His second wife passed away from cancer, leaving him to raise 2 children on his own, one of whom had ADHD and other learning disabilities. To add to these challenges, Hinton himself suffered from severe spinal issues, stemming from an injury in his teenage years while moving a radiator for his mother. This condition prevented him from sitting for long periods, forcing him to stand while working and making air travel nearly impossible due to the requirement to remain seated during takeoff and landing. These combined struggles, academic, personal, and physical, left Hinton feeling despondent. Reflecting on this time, he later remarked, "I felt like I was drowning at 46, convinced that I wouldn't live to see my work succeed, thinking it might take another 100 years after my death for the field to advance." Yet, his unwavering commitment to an underappreciated area of study began to attract like-minded researchers, gradually building the foundation for the resurgence of artificial intelligence. Around the year 2000, advancements in computing power, particularly the rise of GPUs and the exponential growth of data provided the conditions needed for neural networks to make significant strides. Hinton's career took a pivotal turn in 2006, when he introduced the concept of deep learning in a paper published in Science, marking the beginning of a new era in AI research. Then, in September 2012, Hinton and his students published a groundbreaking paper on using deep convolutional neural networks for image classification in the ImageNet dataset. This paper reignited interest in artificial intelligence, a field that had been dormant for years. The turning point came when Hinton and his students, Alex Krizhevsky and Ilya Sutskever, developed AlexNet, a deep learning model that won the ImageNet large-scale visual recognition challenge. Their model achieved an unprecedented image recognition accuracy of 84.7, outperforming the second-place team, Google, by more than 10 percentage points. Remarkably, they accomplished this using just 4 NVIDIA GPUs, while Google relied on 16,000 CPUs. This landmark achievement, built on nearly half a century of relentless academic dedication and personal sacrifice, catapulted Hinton into the spotlight and heralded the dawn of artificial intelligence's golden age. By 2012, Hinton and his students had become central figures in the AI world, sparking revolutionary advancements in both academia and industry. Geoffrey Hinton firmly believed in the importance of having faith in scientific research. He often said that such belief is essential to keep moving forward on the right path, even when others doubt you or claim you are wrong. During the early 1970s, while pursuing his PhD, Hinton faced constant skepticism about the future of neural networks. People around him questioned why he continued to pursue this field when its prospects seemed so bleak. Reflecting on this period, he admitted, "To be honest, I felt very lonely." Yet, the confidence of pioneers like John von Neumann and Alan Turing in neural networks inspired Hinton to stay the course. Interestingly, the criticisms from skeptics also fueled his determination. Hinton once remarked that Marvin Minsky's identification of the limitations of perceptrons was actually a positive development. Discovering the flaws in neural networks, he explained, is the first step toward solving them. It doesn't mean you should abandon the field entirely. Hinton's early life experiences and his unwavering commitment to unraveling the mysteries of the human brain became the driving force that helped him persevere through academic challenges. While Geoffrey Hinton was contemplating whether to pivot to a different career, numerous companies unexpectedly reached out, offering substantial funding to support his work. Instead of directly accepting these offers, Hinton took the bold step of founding a startup, DN Research, with just 2 of his students. The company had no products, no concrete plans, and no funding, a true three-nose company. Yet, Hinton opted to auction the startup, which ultimately led to its acquisition by Google for $44 million. This marked the beginning of Hinton's nearly decade-long tenure at Google. This pivotal deal ignited a global race in artificial intelligence research. Success, however, does not come from perseverance alone. It requires fertile ground and environment where external conditions align with personal effort and determination to allow success to flourish. It's important not to expect instant fame. Every breakthrough is preceded by a long and challenging period of darkness. It is in these dark moments that one gathers strength, hones character through adversity, and absorbs the nourishment needed to move forward. When the dawn finally arrives, one's brilliance naturally shines through. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel.